Greetings everyone, and welcome to this session with Gaia House. Just checking that you can hear me. Yeah, sound's coming through clear, great. Yeah. So, a warm welcome to you wherever you are. Lots of good mornings in the chat, but might not be morning for all of us. So good morning, even if it's not your morning. And really warm greetings. It's lovely, as always, to be here and to see so many of us gathering together and joining together to be here. So as we collect and gather, both as a group, as a community, and for each of us within ourselves, right? We're doing two things at the same time, multitasking. We're gathering individually, gathering ourselves to be here, to settle into this moment, into this opportunity for practice. We're also gathering as a community, gathering together as a community. So as we do that, we can take some time to feel into our intention. What's my intention for this period of practice? What is it that I'd like to connect to be supported by, and also what is it that I'd like to support in the world? So intention has this beautiful multiplicity of aspects. What is it that I'd like to connect to in myself that would be supporting and nourishing? And also, what is it that I'd like to support? What is it that I wish to support myself and in the world? And so taking time to feel into that, and then if you wish, also sharing that with others. Invitation to put your intention into the chat so that we can all benefit from it and we can all resonate with it. And if you'd rather say it, speak it, then you're also welcome to do that. So, some of the intentions: presence, to concentrate and settle my mind, to support a sense of unity, peace and wisdom, peace, love and joy. Rest and regeneration, hope, finding the heart connection, courage and compassion, and connection and peace, love for myself and others, welcoming the present moment, letting the present be enough, interconnection and wisdom. So we can feel the resonance of the intention that arose within each of us, and also the resonance of the intentions of others, healing. Maybe we can already feel ourselves being nourished, being supported by that beautiful network of intentions that's present, that's kind of weaving us all together into this beautiful web of a conscious meeting of our experience, presence that is conscious, that is aware, and that has that wish to align. with what is beneficial, what is wholesome in ourselves and in the world. So let's feel that support of those intentions and come into our practice together. Connection to our loving hearts. We have another one there. So yeah, taking your seat, if you're not already taking it. Finding your posture for this period of practice. And so as you do that, feeling into the body, the heart and the mind, and inviting yourself to choose to select the most appropriate posture for how the body is right now and how the heart and mind are right now. And then settling into that posture. Taking time to make any adjustments that are needed in the posture so that the body is as supported, stable, steady and balanced as possible. As you do this, just aware that already inviting the awareness into the body, the awareness flowing into the body. And also attuning to this intention of kindness, of care. As you're bringing attention and awareness into the body. And inviting the awareness more deeply, more fully into the body. Gathering and collecting. The attention and the awareness in the body, with the body. Can be helpful to use the sensations of contact between the body and the seat. The body and the ground. Feeling that contact between the body and that which supports the body. Inviting the awareness to collect and to gather. Into that contact and with that contact. And then gradually, from that rootedness and the contact, opening and expanding awareness through the body. Sometimes it can be helpful to have this image of the awareness expanding, growing from the sensations of contact out and through the body. Awareness spreading through the whole body, filling up the whole space of the body. Sense of the whole body sitting here, present here. And awareness filling up the whole space of the body. So awareness wide and open in the whole body. And that awareness tuned in to a frequency of kindness, of friendliness. As you meet your experience, as you're aware of your experience in this moment, whatever is present. So you may be meeting sadness or joy, tiredness or energy. Might be fear and uncertainty, there might be compassion. Whatever you're meeting, keeping the awareness wide and holding that in kindness. Meeting that without a sense of enmity, of rejection. Your intention that you felt at the beginning of the session can be really helpful and supportive here. Meeting your experience with that intentionality for peace, for healing, for connection, for collectedness, and all of that in an atmosphere of kindness, emphasizing a practice as an act, an embodiment, a gesture of kindness in the world, in yourself, towards the world, towards yourself. So let's take a little time to explore this in silence in your own way. Gently opening to notice what's alive in your experience right now. Opening to the body and to awareness. Wide and open, expanded through the whole body. If needed, if helpful, grounding in the contact sensations. And also feeling that openness of awareness, filling up, spread through the whole body, and attuned to an intention of kindness, of friendship, of care. Seeing if it's possible and useful, helpful right now. As the awareness is wide in the body and as you meet the experience that's arising in this moment through the body, through the heart and mind, to open to the transiency and constancy of this body, heart and mind, and also to its fragility and vulnerability. Just gently opening, remembering that kindness and care and how you meet that experience. Acknowledging the vulnerability of the body, the vulnerability of the heart and the mind, and holding that in care, in kindness, in compassion. If it's helpful, you can use phrases to support that intention of care and kindness and compassion, to support the holding of yourself, of this body, heart, mind constellation. Seeing if the phrases support holding yourself in tenderness and compassion and care. And if the phrases support that, then using them. If they don't, then letting them go. Sometimes the compassionate and kind thing to do is to actually come back to something grounding, like the breath or the body sensations. So just listening, attuning to your experience in kindness. May I be safe. May I be well. May I find support in the midst of it all. May I be safe. May I be well. May I find support in the midst of it all. May I be safe. May I be well. May I find support in the midst of it all. So opening to the experience with kindness, with compassion, holding it in tenderness. Keeping the awareness wide open and soft. Bathing the being in compassion and tenderness, in goodwill and kindness. Ever the experience, holding it in tenderness, bathing it in kindness. May I be safe and well. May I find support in the midst of it all. Letting yourself be bathed in kindness, bathed and held in compassion, inviting the awareness to open and to grow, and to include the others here in the Dharma hall with us. Knowing that they too know joys and sorrows, and opening that intention of kindness, of compassion and care to include them too. May you be safe and well. May you be supported and find peace in the midst of it all. Opening to all those here in the Dharma hall and also around you, in your immediate vicinity. Perhaps in your home or in the surroundings. Opening to that shared vulnerability and fragility of all living beings. Those you can hear right now or know that are nearby. Wishing for them to be safe, to be well, to find support in the midst of difficulty and challenge. Feeling that intention and that wish flow through you, fill up your whole being and radiate out into the world to include all beings in all directions. May all beings be safe. May all beings be well. And may all beings find support in the midst of it all. May we all find ease. May we all find ease. So taking your time with the transition, there's no rush to change position or to open the eyes. Just taking your time. And before offering some reflections on the theme I wanted to speak of today, just a few words about dharma practice. And I was just reflecting earlier that I want to show a very beautiful story about dharma, about this practice of generosity, of giving, and its power. So I get regular updates from Greenpeace, and the beginning of the crisis in Ukraine, I got an email from Greenpeace addressing what was going on in Ukraine, and it offered some suggestions about where to send donations, to support the Ukrainian people. And it also offered a link to a website that was created by several climate emergency organizations to collate information about things you could do, around the Ukrainian crisis. And it was so beautifully done and beautifully presented. And for me, I wanted to share that because what it really highlighted for me was a few things to do with dharma and generosity. One was that their understandings, in this case Greenpeace was writing to me, their understanding of the human experience was that people to whom they write are distressed about what's going on in Ukraine and want to do something. So that's, they kind of, their way of seeing their supporters is as generous people. And I thought that was just really generous, compassionate people, just really beautiful, really moving, and really wise. And just such a beautiful, and we sometimes don't see that. We just think, oh, another email from Greenpeace. And of course they're asking me for money. They're not, They're kind of saying, we see you as a compassionate, generous, wise person, and here's some things, here's an offering to you. So that was one really beautiful thing. The other really moving thing for me was this seeing so clearly that when you cultivate compassion and generosity, that is a resource for you in times of distress. So all these climate organizations working, around a specific subject, a climate emergency, then being able to shift, to take their skills, to take their strength and shift it to what was arising. And then they very beautifully said, and now we're going back to our work, which is focusing on what we do. But we wanted to put this out there as a support for you. So it's so wise, so beautiful. And I just really wanted to share that story as a little bit of a teaching, about the power of dharma, of generosity, which is very much married with compassion. When we do that, it actually resources us. When we develop that skill, when we develop that quality in us, it becomes a resource because it kind of pulls us out of despair into agency. And here's that possibility, and it pulls us out of a sense of isolation into a sense of connection. Some of the intentions were about connection. Here's something we can do, rather than feeling helpless. So I hope this is coming across as a worthwhile teaching on dharma, on generosity, on giving, as such a practice that we do for ourselves and we do for each other. It really blurs those lines. And so in the context of this session today, before I continue to dive into the theme of the talk today, is these sessions are offered in that spirit. They're offered in the spirit of giving. There's no you don't need to buy a ticket to come into these sessions, right? You just turn up, and that's the spirit of dana. Yeah, that's the spirit of generosity, and it's something that we all make possible. Yeah, by showing up. It's something that Gaia House makes possible, and it's something that teachers like myself make possible. So always in Dharma sessions, there's the invitation to contribute to that, to participate in that. So I'm going to put 2 links into the chat. One is the link to the Gaia House support page if you wish to offer support to Gaia House. The other is a link to the Help Refugees Ukraine campaign. If you wish to offer dana to me, please offer it to them on my behalf. So I've just put those 2 links into the chat, and if you wish to practice dana in this particular form, there's many forms to practice it, then please do. That's up to you, and whatever you offer to either one of those avenues is really welcome. And I love the way Help Refugees call themselves Choose Love. I don't know if you've looked at the link, but that's if you have a regular donation to them, which I do, the emails from them come in. They say Choose Love. And again, such a beautiful, skillful way of kind of pointing to what is it that we're actually doing, helping refugees. Not exactly. We're choosing love. Yeah, we're choosing kindness, we're choosing compassion, we're choosing wisdom in ourselves and in the world when we support that. So I'll flow on from that into some Dharma reflections for today, and hopefully the reflections aren't going to be that long, 20 minutes, I think, to half an hour. We'll see what happens. Never quite know what's going to come out of my mouth, despite preparing and making notes. And then we'll have some time for questions at the end. So I wanted to speak more about about wise intentions and wholesome intentions and practices such as generosity, dana, compassion, metta, which I'll say what metta is in a moment, and how these are a support for ourselves, how they're a support for the world. Yeah, and we keep making that distinction, even though it's not real, between myself and the world. Yeah, we're not really separate from the world, but it's the way we tend to see our experience, so it can be helpful to touch on, to kind of respect that way of seeing. And so I mentioned generosity, the dana, the Pali word, which means giving. I mentioned compassion. These are words we're familiar with. Also mentioned metta, which is this quality of kindness and of care that we were touching on in the guided meditation just now. Most closely translated as unconditional friendliness or goodwill. Yeah, willing good, wishing good for others, for ourselves, for the world. And hopefully we could get a taste of it in the meditation today, or we know that from other situations in our world, when that is the container or the atmosphere. Yeah, the container for how we meet experience, or the atmosphere through which we meet our experience. Yeah, the kind of atmosphere of, we can say, safety, of acceptance, of wishing well, of support. And I think we can start to see why friendliness can be a really good translation for metta, because it's what we feel when we're with a good friend. Yeah, so we can all reflect on that sense of being with someone who's a good friend. What does that feel like when they're really listening to us, and they're really interested in us, when they accept us and they allow us to be in our ups and downs. Often, for many of us, it's easier to see this with our friends in the non-human world. We get that sense more strongly. Yeah. So, it might be a tree. Yeah. Or it might be, a dog or a cat or a bird or, a non-human, where we really feel that kind of sense of through your good moods and your bad moods, your beautiful sides and your less beautiful sides, you're met in that same sense of an atmosphere of safety, of support, of allowing and accepting. And we can reflect on what opens up for us when that atmosphere is there. Both what is it like when I'm received in that way, and what is it like to offer that to another. So when that container is there to meet our experience, with, and I'm going to kind of speak a lot about metta, but it's the same, you can say the same flavors with compassion or with a sense of generosity. That's there, someone really giving us their attention, or we are really giving our attention to another. It really gives us the possibility, the courage to open to our experience, to open to what is there. It might be that what's there is fear or confusion or despair. It might be that what's there is anger or frustration or outrage. It might be that what is there is a lot of energy. We don't really know what to do with it. So maybe kind of a whole range of experiences that we meet, and that atmosphere of metta particularly supports us to open to those that we tend to kind of shut down from even more. What we fear or what we don't understand, what we don't know. So it gives us the possibility and courage to open to what is here, and it also gives us the possibility and courage to respond. But we need to open, and we need to recognize what's there in us, for there to be the capacity to respond to it. Does that make sense to people? Give me some nods or some shakes of the head. Yeah. Okay. And so in the teachings and also in our own reflections, it's really worth kind of spending time with this and with understanding of kind of how important the way that we meet our experience is and how it unfolds. And how important these qualities of compassion, of tenderness, of kindness, of care, and they don't have to be sugary. Sometimes we think, we talk about metta, we talk about kindness, and we get this kind of sweet, it's sugary. It's like people say it's Pollyanna-ish. If you know Pollyanna, some of us do. A sense of like kind of sugarcoating our experience, and pretending it's all pink and sugar dusted, and so we can see that's, it doesn't have to be like that. It can just have that sense of meeting without rejection. That's also a form of metta and a form of compassion, just to meet something without rejection, without pushing it away, without closing down, without having this really strong agenda that we tend to have as human beings, the agenda to get rid of the fear, of the confusion, of the despair, whatever is there that kind of is unsettling for us. And so there's a lot in the teachings around this, and about how these qualities are not only helpful for us to kind of have the courage and have the sense of support in order to open to what's there, but also they're helpful to support us in responding. Responding to fear, responding to despair, responding to outrage and anger. So there's a beautiful, I think I've told this in the Dharma hall already, but the kind of one of the myths of how the Buddha started teaching metta practice in particular was as an antidote to fear. So there was a group of practitioners that were sent off to practice in the forest, and that forest was already inhabited. There were already other beings there. Yeah, it's a great story about us humans, what we see and what we don't see. They came in and they thought, this is an empty forest. Yeah, sounds a bit colonial. Turns out it wasn't empty. There were spirits living in that forest. Yeah, but the humans didn't notice them, didn't take them into account. And when the spirits realized these humans are here to stay, they're planning to hang out for quite some time doing their practice, they didn't really feel like sharing their forest with these practitioners. So they did everything they could to make it unpleasant. So the myth goes, they made very scary and unpleasant sounds, and they created unpleasant smells. And it was not a good place for practice. Yeah, it was not a good place for practice. And so the practitioners kind of basically ran back to the Buddha, like little children who run back to the parent and say, it's not working, can you change this for me? And they said, no, that forest is no good. Can you give us a different forest to practice in? Because it doesn't have the right conditions. Yeah, there's scary noises and bad smells. And the Buddha said, no, I'm not going to give you a different forest, but I'm going to give you a practice that's going to help you. And he taught the metta practice. That's the myth. He taught them metta practice, and then and sent them back to that forest. And they had such a motivation to practice metta that they practiced the whole way back, which of course took some time because they're on foot, that by the time they reached the forest, they were radiating metta, they were radiating this goodwill and this friendliness. And so the myth goes that then not only did the spirits stop harassing them, but they undertook to care for them and to support them in the retreat for the 3 months that they were going to be there. So they supplied them with food and everything they needed so that they could devote themselves to the practice. So that's the story, but I think we can take so much from that. We take so much from that. The sense of this natural, when we feel fear, what happens to us? When we feel fear, what happens to us? We tend to shut down and close down. We tend to build up barriers if we think, fear is at the root of so much of the aggression in our world, right? And depending on conditions and situations, the barriers that we will build, and the aggression will be, more extreme or kind of more under, kind of, can be very extreme but less violent, let's say. So that understanding that when we practice this attitude of kindness and with it the compassion, the generosity of seeing the other, without enmity. I hope we can see how they all weave together. That's a form of generosity. It can change our own experience, but also can then change how we are in the world. We're meeting the fear in a way that can hold the fear. And, I can hear the question, if it's not already in your mind, it's probably in somebody else's mind, of doesn't fear sometimes serve a purpose? Of course it does. So, really important to remember, it doesn't take away our capacity to also respond in other ways. So we change the internal atmosphere. But we also can, sometimes that actually supports us because it gives us more stability, more clarity of seeing to then respond in ways that might be helpful, with the object of fear. So fear has many manifestations, right? It can be just internal, it's just a triggered response that we have towards something. And it can be something that needs addressing in the world. And maybe, I told you, I didn't know what I was going to take, because here's an example which I think will be relevant from my life, about this practice of metta and fear. So I think a lot of you are aware I grew up in Israel. And I grew up in Jerusalem, particularly troubled part of the world, with a long history of trouble and of fear. And of separation. And a few years ago, I can't remember how many years ago this was, maybe, I don't know, something between 5 and 10 years ago, I was in Jerusalem and I was on the tram in Jerusalem, and I was standing up. It was quite crowded, and I noticed in my own mind, and we need a degree of metta in the mind to notice this, I noticed that I was looking around, and any youngish man with dark coloured skin wearing either a coat or a bag, my response was fear. There was fear. I was just observing. I was practicing on the tram, and I could see this. In me. There's fear. There's fear. Why is there fear? His, personal history as a child, as a teenager, as a young adult. Being exposed to violence. And then that being learnt. Now here's the metta practice coming in, and the compassion and the generosity and the wisdom of knowing what's going on in me now, that sparking of the fear, isn't, right now it's not serving any purpose, It's not serving any purpose, it's not protecting me in any way, It's just creating actually more of the same, right? And this is something, as human beings, we can sense that, we can feel. If someone's afraid of us, we can feel that. Not serving any purpose. This is conditioning. It's conditioning. It's a learnt behavioral pattern of fear. It's got its causes, but it's not relevant here. And so working with that, and it needed, first of all, a lot of metta internally to transform that fear. So that internally I can create a space of safety. And then the metta outside, to those particular people, and also to everyone else in that carriage, which I was pretty confident, aware or not aware, were in that same loop. In that same loop. So that's the practice in the moment, but that's not the entirety of the practice. This is what I'm trying to say here. This is where we practice with our own experience to change it in here, and it has an impact around us. If you've ever been around somebody, Buddhist practitioners or not, who had access to metta and embodied it, you know what I mean. We can feel it. So that's one aspect. The other aspect is the renewed commitment to transform the causes of that fear in the world. So to transform them in me, one really important aspect, because in that moment when I'm fearful, I'm feeding actually the causes of my own fear. Does that make sense? That sense of separation, being afraid of somebody who's just a random human being, seeing them as a suicide bomber. That's what was going on that's what I'm seeing them as. That's creating that which I am afraid of. That's creating it in the world. When I kind of give in to that, when I don't respond to that. That's one aspect. The other is to change the external conditions as well. So there's the internal and there's the external. And that commitment, seeing it in myself, the commitment to work with internally, so this doesn't feed, this particularly body, heart, mind doesn't feed these conditions anymore in the world, and changing them in the world. What are the conditions that lead people to that behavior? What are the inequalities and injustice in this particular society that I'm still part of, even though I no longer live in Israel? And that exists in other places, of course, as well. So does that make sense as an example? When we see that, internal and external, both, and the capacity to respond, always something we can do. It's always something we can do. So metta, compassion, goodwill, wisdom, all these wholesome qualities that come through the practice are real support for us in working with fear, in working with confusion, working with helplessness, Yeah, all the things that come up in us when we see, yeah, like we are in this current time, yeah, when we see the pain of the world, yeah, when we meet the pain of the world, when suddenly, for whatever reason, this is what's in our news. Yeah, I like to remind us sometimes what's happening in Ukraine now, and not taking away how terrible it is. It's terrible, and it needs our attention. Yeah, but even before war broke out in Ukraine, there's equally terrible things happening. Yeah, in Afghanistan, in Syria, yeah, in Tibet. It's here. It's part of the human condition, and we need to pay attention. Yeah, we need to pay attention. So we may be facing confusion and helplessness. Yeah, and then we bring in the metta, the compassion. Yeah, to that. And we remember the power of friendship. Yeah, I was listening to an interview with someone who's a leader of the White Helmets in Syria yesterday. Everyone know the White Helmets. They're the humanitarian organization in Syria, Syrian organization, grassroots organization, and targeted by the government there. And this interview was taking place, and that with what's happening in Ukraine in the background. And the interviewer, the journalist, was asking this man who had spoken so beautifully, was asking, what can we do? What's happening in Syria is receding, yeah, from our awareness more and more. We're not. A few years ago it was front and center, and now still going on, but not covered in the news. Therefore, we're not so aware. And what can we do as human beings, in this case living in Britain? What can we do? And this man, I didn't catch his name, I only listened to part of the interview. He said, remember us, think of us, yeah, hold us in your heart. Yeah, that's what we need. That's what we need. And I think, again, we tend to forget, yeah, just how important that is for us as human beings. Yeah, so we feel confused, we feel helpless, we feel despair. Yeah. And we don't ask, what do you need? And here was the opportunity, what is it that you need? And it can seem so little. Yeah, what we want of you is to remember. Yeah. Remember us and think of us. And that kind of just holding each other in our hearts. Yeah, he didn't say give money. He didn't say write to your government. It was very moving, very potent. Of course, we can also do that. Yeah, but just that remembering. Yeah, and that power of friendship, that power of giving our attention, our remembering to something and to someone. Yeah, so meaningful. I think again we know that in our own lives, and yet it's something we forget again and again. If you've had a family member or a friend that's gone through loss or grief, yeah, or some difficult situation, what is it that they want more than anything, right? They want us to just be there for them, not to fix, not to take away, yeah, necessarily, but the primary thing is to be there, to see, to hear, yeah, to listen, to give our attention. And I know this, I meet this so many times in our work that we do in Palestine and bringing Israelis to Palestine. And most Israelis that come are so full of guilt and shame. And they, sometimes it's said, they say, why would the Palestinians want to talk to us? Yeah? Why are they opening their homes to us? How can they bear having us here? Yeah, because we're responsible for their situation. Yeah, why do they even want to talk to us if we're not able to affect change? Yeah, to give them human rights, if we're not able to do that. And the Palestinians, again and again, what they're saying is, what we want you to do is to be with us. Yeah, what we want you to do is to be with us. And one of my good friends, he says, I meet with Israelis because I want my children to know that not all Israelis are soldiers and not all Israelis are settlers. I meet with Israelis because I want my children to know from their own experience that Israelis are humans. Yeah. And so again, we forget that. And what happens when we remember? Yeah. What happens when we remember? So the practice really supports us in this. And it also supports us to free up our energies, as I said early on, to take our outrage, to take our anger, to take our sense of this is wrong, yeah, injustice, to take that and to channel it into action, yeah, and that action can simply mean not building more enmity, not building more hatred, not building more separation, yeah, to channel that into the good. And this is really possible for us. Yeah, it's really possible. And it's so important that we remember ourselves, yeah, with metta, with compassion, with wisdom, that we remember ourselves as part of the goodness in the world. And I'm just going to close with it's one of my favorite quotes at the moment. It's from Vandana Shiva. Also, I think from a recent interview with her, certainly I came across it recently. Vandana Shiva, for those who don't know her, is a physicist and an ecofeminist, environmental activist for decades, both in India, where she lives, and globally. And she was asked in this interview, how do you not burn out? Yeah. So many years of activism, and how do you not burn out? Yeah, how do you not lose heart? And here's her practice. And so she said in response, she said, because I make the effort again and again to see myself as part of this beautiful universe. Yeah, to see myself again and again as part of this beautiful universe. And the beautiful universe cannot burn out. Yeah, the beautiful universe cannot burn out. So I take the time and I make the effort to see myself again and again as part of this beautiful universe, not separate from that which I love, not separate from that which I'm serving. Yeah, I'm in service of this beautiful universe and I'm part of it. So that beauty I serve is also in me. Yeah, and that becomes a source of rejuvenation. So we can see that, yeah, as the compassion, as the metta, the goodwill, the friendliness, as the generosity, and as that wisdom that can see. I'm a part of something so much larger, what I personally like to call that movement of goodness. In the world that we're all part of, and we can proudly and joyfully take our place within. So let's just take a few breaths with that.